Welcome to fabulous Las Vegas. I'm Randy, and I was 13 years old when I first saw that sign. I remember when every hotel on the Strip had one main showroom and one lounge, and you were entertained all the time at the Desert Inn, the Riviera, the Aladdin, the Sands, the Stardust, the Frontier, the Tropicana. They're all gone now. The Sahara. Well, the Sahara's still there, but it's quite different than it was back in those days. An interesting bit of trivia. Back in 1956 at the New Frontier Hotel, Elvis Presley took third billing, and he was not very successful. But 12 years later, he would headline and open the International Hotel in Las Vegas. And that building still stands today. Although the Flamingo Hotel still stands, it's a far cry from what it was in its beginning in 1946. Bugsy Siegel and the Mob opened the Flamingo Hotel. It became the first luxury hotel on the Strip. The Flamingo was built on 33 acres of land on what would become the Las Vegas Strip. It was several miles outside of downtown Fremont, as you can see on the top of this picture, and that's where my story begins. Back in 1961, my father decided that our summer vacation from Terre Haute, Indiana, would be spent in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was a gambler, he loved entertainment, and he was anxious to see Las Vegas. As we drove into Las Vegas, of course, the freeway wasn't there yet, so you came in by highway, and it led you right down Fremont Boulevard with all the bright lights of Las Vegas. As we traveled through those bright lights, we continued on down Fremont to find a less conspicuous place to spend the night. That night, we walked down Fremont and stopped at each casino. My dad would go inside, and my mother and I would stand outside because I was too young to go into the casinos. The next morning, my parents and I got up at our motel and went out to the swimming pool. I got in the water and I was splashing around. My mother found a lady to talk to on one side, my dad on the other. And I could hear my dad talking to this guy. And my dad had one of those car salesman suntans, dark arms, dark head, and everything else was white. And he began talking to this guy, said, "This Las Vegas is really something." And the guy said, "Yeah, we're going out to see Steve Allen and Jane Meadows tonight." So where's that? At the Sands Hotel. My dad said, "The Sands? I didn't see that." He said, "Oh, it's out on the Strip." And my dad said, "You mean there's more?" He then yelled across the swimming pool to my mother, "Rosie, I just found out they got a whole bunch more hotels on a highway outside of town." And I guess the Hicks from Indiana had arrived. And that night, my mother and father and I joined the couple that they'd met by the pool, and we went to see Steve Allen and Jane Meadows at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. The same place where we had heard about the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. Although they weren't there that night, my dad was just thrilled to be in the same room that the Rat Pack performed. 6 years later, I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed in Southern California, just 185 miles from Las Vegas. As I was honing my entertainment skills at George Air Force Base in the barracks, I got a call one day from my dad. He told me a musician friend of his from Terre Haute had moved to Las Vegas. He was trumpet player Earl Blue, and he was now playing in the Sands Orchestra. I got in touch with Earl, and he invited me to spend the weekend with he and his family in Las Vegas. It so happened that Danny Thomas was appearing at the Sands that night, and I got to watch his show from offstage. As I was watching and enjoying this great performer, about halfway through, he took his jacket off and walked over to me, handed me his jacket. I didn't know what to do, so I stood there saying, "I've got Danny Thomas's jacket in my hands." I still have it to this day. No, I'm just kidding. When I got out of the Air Force in the early 70s, we put together a group called Freeway. We traveled across the country and we worked in a lot of great places, but it wasn't Las Vegas until 1975. We appeared at the Hilton International Hotel. We were in the lounge and it was a great gig. We loved it. The stage actually came out of the floor on hydraulics, so it was really a kick to work there. Well, now that we were a Las Vegas show band, we got our fancy clothes on and expected to be back in Las Vegas quick, but it didn't work that way. We ended up on the Nevada circuit. We started in North Tahoe at the Cal Neva Lodge. Next, we were on to Harvey's Hotel in Lake Tahoe. Then we were on our way to Harrah's Hotel in Reno, where we shared the stage with Kenny Rogers in the First Edition and comedian Jerry Van Dyke. Kenny Rogers and the First Edition were just about to break up. It was one of their last gigs before Kenny went on his own. Kenny left this autograph, which I treasure. It says, "Randy, sorry we didn't get to know each other better. Thanks much for being so nice. Your friend, Kenny Rogers." Jerry Van Dyke I remembered from our local television station back in Terre Haute, Indiana. He used to have a show back in the late 50s. He was one of the funniest and nicest guys I ever met, and it was great working with him. Freeway had broken up in the late 70s, and by the early 80s, I had joined a new group, LA Strut Las Vegas Review. Our first gig was at the Aladdin Hotel. Paul Anka was in the main showroom, and we were in the Sinbad Lounge. Our show began with the chorus line of the LA Strut Dancers. I'd come out, say hello, sing a song, introduce Julie Marino, and the show was on. Yes, we had it made from cowboys to Indians. Our next stop was at the end of Fremont downtown at the Union Plaza Hotel. It was a great gig, but the Union Plaza had 24 hours of entertainment every day, 365 days a year. That meant 6 shows a night for each act, and it was really very hard on our dancers. I remembered back to when I was 13 years old with my mom and dad walking down Fremont, and I couldn't even go into the casinos. Now I'm performing in one. Here I am with 3 of those beautiful girls from our show backstage at the Union Plaza. Our next stop was back out on the Strip at the El Rancho Hotel. It was originally the Thunderbird Hotel when they had all the letters of Thunderbird across the front of the building, if you remember that. Like Freeway, I ended up doing the Nevada circuit up in Reno. Our first stop, Harrah's Hotel with Glenn Campbell and Lonnie Shore. We worked there with Rip Taylor. Although we didn't work with Glenn Campbell on stage, his dressing room was right across the street from ours, so I got to know him a little bit. Rip Taylor, on the other hand, was next door to us in his dressing room, and I got to know him. One day I went by his dressing room. He had bitten his tongue during his show, and he called me in and asked me if I could put this medicine on the end of his tongue, so I did. And that's us in 1985, I believe that was. And then I met him again in 2012, and of course he remembered the tongue incident. Rip was one crazy, funny guy. Got to work with him a couple of times during my years in Vegas. We also appeared at Fitzgerald's in Reno, and then on to Lake Tahoe to Harvey's Hotel. When we returned to Las Vegas at the Aladdin Hotel, just down the street, Jerry Lewis was doing his telethon at the Sands Hotel. I met Jerry Lewis, and I actually got to step on that stage and perform with LA Strut during the telethon. It was quite a great experience. I even got this autographed picture from Jerry. Another time we were on television, it was purely accidental. In 1986, New Year's Eve, ABC TV was going from big city to find out how they were celebrating the new year. They planned to shoot fireworks off the top of the Union Plaza, but it became much too windy for that to happen. I guess we were the closest thing they had to Las Vegas entertainment, so they brought us out of the lounge and put us on a flatbed truck at the end of Fremont. Thousands of people lined the street as we performed, I believe, a couple of numbers. It was awfully cold out there, and I felt so sorry for the girls. Well, I had a tuxedo on, so I stayed warm. The guys in the band each had a coat, but the poor girls were still wearing their costumes from the show. I hope ABC and Union Plaza appreciated that. After LA Strut broke up in 1987, I spent the next year working at the Viscount Hotel and Casino, located across the street from the Aladdin Hotel. 10 years after I left Las Vegas and returned to Southern California, the Aladdin Hotel came down. As did every hotel that I remembered on the Las Vegas Strip. The landmark I actually used as a landmark when I drove around Vegas. It kind of let me know where I was. But the saddest one is when the Sands Hotel came down. The first time I'd ever seen a show in that room. I held Danny Thomas's coat in that room, and I performed on that stage. Fabulous Las Vegas. Yes, it's still fabulous, but I'm glad I was a little part of old Las Vegas. Thanks for watching.